What's up, everyone? Buckle up for a new episode of Tech in Check. Let's dive into the basics and complexities of machinery maintenance with engineers Rich Marriage and Tony Planamento. Join us as we meet with guests from the marine and industrial world to learn about the latest technology that keeps your equipment in check and working for you.
Hello, my name is Rich Marriage. I'm with AME, and I'm here with Justin Montes of DeAngelo Marine Exhaust, and we're here to talk about his company and how it interacts with our company with vibration analysis and alignment and all that good stuff on marine propulsion.
Yep.
So, how you doing, Justin?
Good, man. First of all, thank you for having me, right? Very honored to be on what is soon to be the biggest podcast in the marine industry.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
here we are.
Thank you for that. Tremendous honor. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And what can you tell me about DeAngelo Marine Exhaust?
All right, DeAngelo Marine Exhaust. We do the exhaust systems for all the big yachts that we see around here.
Yes.
Anywhere from 50 feet all the way up to 350 feet, somewhere in there. We'll come in and we'll connect the engine to the transom and try to get the gases out there as cool as possible and make sure everything goes as well as it can.
Right. And what about the history of the company? Like, how did DeAngelo get started? Where did this all, like, how did somebody come up with a specialization like exhaust on yachts?
Funny. It's funny because it is so niche, right? It's such a niche market, and people ask me all the time, and I'm like, well, you got 30 minutes, I can tell you the whole thing, but yeah, basically the founder of the company, Vincent Jim DeAngelo Sr., he was an automated, an aviation welder. He worked for Eastern Airline.
Okay. And,
just an avid sportsman, always fishing, always around boats. And, when you're good at something, you typically do things for your friends on the side, right?
Sure.
So, welding little jobs in here and there for his friends. And I guess that just turned into a big project, turned into two big projects to where now he went from being an aviation welder to actually starting up a side company out of his garage and eventually grew it into the company that it is today.
So I'm curious, what was his niche? Like, how did he manage to break open? Was it that he did stainless welding? Was it the quality of his welds?
Yeah, just a great fabricator.
Great fabricator. So he was able to put together systems that were just like world-class,
sure.
Like yacht quality, like people like to hear, right?
Sure. So the aviation industry is my understanding,
precision.
A lot more right than the marine industry.
Yes.
So if your bread and butter is aviation quality welds, you're going to be an all-star in the marine industry.
Sure.
So taking some of that and applying it to the marine industry really is what we thought sets us apart. And the quality is like, man, we're TIG welding everything by hand, purge welded and passivated, all this, where other companies just getting an automated MIG gun and just bloop.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the quality of the welds is unsurpassed.
Right.
And with the roots in the aviation business, that makes sense to me because I know, aviation, there's no room for error.
You can't think of the last time. I mean, planes don't crash, too often, right?
Yeah, right.
There's boats always.
Quality
down.
Control and welding is a really key thing. And,
sure.
and having these welds being good quality is really important.
For sure.
And I've seen your exhaust. I mean, they're a work of art. They're beautiful.
Thank you. That's, I guess, where we were able to grow the companies through his craftsmanship and the quality and then the reputation. It's like anything else. You're doing an improvement on your house, right? You need a new roof. You can Google and Angie's List and get it, or you'll know somebody in the biz. Like, man, this guy does good work. I'm going to hire that guy.
It's interesting because I started this business over 30 years ago.
Yeah. And
I remember everything was kind of rough looking. And there was a lot of steel pipe and none of this stuff was polished or, pretty looking. It was it was like an automotive exhaust.
It really is.
And it's become a whole amazing industry.
That's still out there, right? So, these mega yachts, they're building all these beautiful yachts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The master bedrooms, the bathrooms, the jacuzzi, the bar, these sell the boat, but engine room, nobody really cares about the engine room, right? The owner's never going to go down the engine room. So, you can see how that works. I just want to build this boat and I want it to be okay, but I don't need a fancy schmancy exhaust system.
Right,
so maybe, you have companies that do it that way. But that's great. That's where we can kind of come in and say, hey, we have a better product here for you.
Yeah, there are some owners, boy, they go down in that engine room and they really like it's like their passion. They want to see that engine room, like they want to chrome every bolt, man. It's we've had owners that wanted to chrome everything and just like polish it out, and the bilges you could just
eat off the floor.
Yeah. So and I see where you guys fit into that. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about your growth and how the company's expanded and where you are headed in the future.
Yeah, I think back in those early days when everything was rough and tough, it was your reputation. It was your product that you put out there. And Mr. DeAngelo obviously had a very good reputation, and the business just kept growing and growing and growing to where he was just a couple guys in his garage on the weekends.
Yeah.
To in the glory days having 80 employees running 2 shifts, nonstop shipping parts all over the world.
Working hard.
Oh yeah, a lot of work.
American story, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's the American dream, and it's been great. I mean, the company was founded in 1986, but even before then, he's probably still making some in the garage and all that. And really took a turn for the better when he got connected with Roger Penske.
Okay.
Who is the famous businessman, Penske Auto Racing. You see the Penske trucks on the team. So he had a personal a boat that he used, and he wanted to get some exhaust work done. Excuse me, as my phone's ringing. He got in contact with Jim Sr., and they did some work for one of his boats.
Yes.
And it came out so good. That project took like a year, and it went on in Savannah, where, Jim and his guys had to go to Savannah and actually make this exhaust system for his boat on the vessel.
That's interesting. That was up in Savannah, not local.
And this is years ago.
Yeah.
So did that job for him, and it was so good that Mr. Penske said, hey, why don't we start a business here? Half and half, we'll call it DeAngelo Marine Exhaust, and that's the birth of DeAngelo Marine Exhaust.
Roger, from what I understand, Mr. Penske was quite particular as well.
Oh yeah, very, very particular. And I don't know if you can see it, but that is actually a picture of his engine room and one of the things he did.
That's really neat.
And you can see, I mean, you talk about the mirror polish and all that. I was like,
I believe we worked on that boat.
Oh, for sure. Lots of people over there.
Yeah, it was high performance yacht.
Yeah.
Still going strong.
Yeah, it is. We just got to order to replace some of the components on it.
Yeah.
You get a connection like that, and then you just grow it and grow it.
He was really supportive and helped out a lot. That's awesome. That's a great story. And it's nice to see that synergy between the owners and the business. Like, a lot of times we're beating up on each other. It's nice when we're all working together,
Yeah. You get more, what is it? You attract more bees with honey than vinegar or something like that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want flies. We want bees.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the products that you offer. And, I'm interested to hear about what's like leading edge and stuff like that.
Again, we're going to be doing the marine exhaust system. So in all these big yachts, you have diesel engines. Mm-hmm. Usually have 2 of them at least in there. And so when the boat builder's putting that engine in, they'll look to us to try to offer some kind of design to get from the turbo of the engine out to the transom of the boat.
Right.
And so that's the bread and butter of our business.
Okay.
But we have 55,000 square foot production floor where these guys can make anything. I mean, the racks that hold the weights in my gym, signage all over my house, parts for my car, anything. But mostly
good fabricators.
Yeah, mostly it's marine exhaust systems. And what's really taken off now is with all this exhaust filtration stuff where we want to clean the exhaust before they go out. We're starting to pick up more product on that where we'll offer DPF and SCR systems, which we can talk about a little bit later. But same thing, exhaust systems, and they'll actually clean the exhaust in the process.
I know that's big. Tier 4 emissions is becoming a big issue.
Yep.
It's really important to the environment.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I just to throw something in, we cross paths a lot because when we do a vibration survey, we're looking for the exhaust, the exhaust vibrate. So there's, the combustion of the engine, you got this tremendous amount of gas flow. The mass flow of the exhaust gas is incredible, right?
Oh, yeah.
These engines are high horsepower. They're pumping out a lot of gas. And that creates pressure pulsations can create vibration if the exhaust system isn't well supported, isn't properly sized, has problems with the cooling on the spray ring, and it doesn't have the flexibility in the right points with the bellows and insulation. I mean, we see all that in our vibration.
Oh yeah. You guys are a tremendous asset for us. You got to put yourself in the shoes of the captain and the crew that runs this boat, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much that they're accountable for, right? The captain reports to the owner, and he's got to make sure everything's ready to go.
Yeah.
So, the captain's not going to be an expert in everything, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm a captain and I'm working on this boat and I had to replace an exhaust system and I contract DeAngelo Marine, they come in, they take out my old rusty mild steel exhaust, they put in a brand new polished DeAngelo one, and now I'm getting vibration.
Right.
Of course I'm going to say, hey, it's the exhaust.
We touched it last.
Right, exactly. So that happens a lot. And a company like Advanced Mechanical will come in and say, hey, can you help us out here?
Yeah.
We don't think it's our exhaust, but let's run an analysis and let's see what's happening.
Sure.
With your guys' expertise and the tools, you can come in and say, yeah, it's the exhaust. Justin, you probably need to tweak this, or, hey, Captain, it's not the exhaust. I think it's a problem with this or that or the other.
Misfire in the engine.
And at the end, it's not about, hey, no, it's about getting
the engine mounts, all kinds of stuff.
So
pipes connected to the engine.
Yeah, so the engine's going to shake, right?
Yeah, we've seen even, just not to interrupt, but we've seen alignment of the engine to the propeller shaft even affect the exhaust, because what happens is, say we get a boat that came in from overseas and it was built or serviced overseas, and they got a vibration, and they're like, and we look at it and we're like, wow, you got pipe strain on the exhaust system and it's affecting your alignment. Like the exhaust pipe is constraining the engine on the rubber mounts. So we've seen that happen, so everything has to be considered in the system.
Oh, for sure. There was as you were saying that, there's a vessel that comes to mind, a big Fed ship, and we replaced both exhaust systems, the port and starboard. Mm-hmm. And one of them was just vibrating. He said, hey, it's your exhaust. Yeah. And we looked in and said, hey man, we replaced both. So if it's the exhaust, they both should be shaking. And we did get you guys to go on board and do the analysis. It turns out the shaft on that side was way out of round or out of alignment,
out of balance or something,
and they had to fix that. Once he fixed that,
everything went away. Yeah,
perfect.
And boy, I'll tell you, people, I remember the old days. The engines were bolted down hard to the stringers, and the exhaust systems were solid and rigid, and nobody cared about vibration.
Nope.
Now vibration is a perception of quality and comfort.
Oh yeah, sound too. If it's too loud and it's shaking, I don't want to hear that when I'm upstairs.
I mean, we're working now on an older vessel, very good quality, well built vessel, but they got some vibration problems because back then it was okay, and now it's not.
Yep.
So there's updates that we have to do to the exhaust, to the engine mounts, to the shaft couplings, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it's all goes hand in hand.
Sure.
All right. So tell me, you have some kind of patent pending product?
Yes.
Is that something sounds exciting?
Yes, very excited. Just filed the patent last year. We're hoping it goes through. On our exhaust systems, right? We got stainless steel tubing that goes into what we call a mixer tank.
Okay.
Or a spray can or a shower head. You'll hear many terms.
Sure.
It's basically where they're injecting the cooling water, and that cooling water is going to mix with the exhaust gases so it can now go out of the boat, go in the fiberglass components.
Right. Very important.
If we didn't cool that, you'd burn up all the fiberglass.
So we've seen that happen too.
That does happen, unfortunately. So we got to take these gases that can sometimes be thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, and we got to cool them down to under 300 degrees Fahrenheit,
right,
so that it won't cook up the fiberglass. So what you'll see most people's on their mixer tanks is you're just drilling holes in, kind of like your shower, and water comes on you cool with the gases. So over the years, we've tried to fine tune that, and there's kind of an art to it, right?
Okay.
We work hand in hand with the engine manufacturers when we have a large database.
Sure.
Based on whatever engine is going in your boat, we'll know the specifications of that engine. What's the allowable back pressure, the water pump, how much water it's going to give you. And so we'll play with that and try to come up with the correct orientation of the shower can to cool the gases correctly.
Okay.
And so we filed a patent on how we're going to do that. And it's our mixer tank and the series of holes and how we manipulate those holes to cool the gases better.
Huh.
If you imagine you go outside, you got a garden hose and you just turn it on, it's just a column of water coming out.
Sure.
But now if you can put your thumb over that hose, you're creating a spray pattern and you're atomizing the water.
Okay.
It's better to cool.
Got it.
A fire extinguisher, if there was a fire and you pull the fire extinguisher, it's not just one column of gas. You see it plume, and it's kind of like the same
if you
concept.
don't, I mean, condensing that gas, it also, not only does it cool the gas, but it reduces back pressure.
Correct. If
Because
you can do it
condensed
right.
air is a lot, less volume.
Yep. So we're going to go off the engine specifications, the water pump curve, the allowable back pressure. We're going to know what route the gas is taking because we've designed the exhaust system, right?
Okay.
Every little bend and turn, we're accounting for the loss of pressure and all
Pipe
that.
bends are not good.
Right. Ideally, you want a straight shot.
Yeah.
So if we got to go like this, we'll say, hey, we're going to take up this much back pressure. So it's an art, it's a spreadsheet, it's a long formula, but based off all that information, we'll know at what size and hole orientation to make that diffuser or mixer tank, shower can, whatever it's called.
Nice.
So that we're seeing a lot of benefit to that. And if you get, we've got into trouble where we'll replace an old tank, and we'll say, okay, well listen, that tank just has holes drilled in it, water's just coming out. We can design a better one to cool the water. But what
more
we can,
efficient
to cool the gases.
Yeah, less back pressure is better, right?
Right.
Usually.
Yeah. And we can go back to them and say, hey, we designed it based on this engine spec, which says we're going to get, 120 gallons of water per minute.
Okay.
We'll be able to go in there and tell the guy, hey, you were never getting 120 gallons a minute. You're only getting 50. Of course you're burning up your components. So we need to rethink this. We
see this all the time.
Yeah.
And then you got salt water. So
it's salt water, yeah.
Salt water and metal and
that's
all fun stuff.
Yeah, the elements, they'll eat through anything.
Oh, man.
Only a matter of time.
Hot salt waters. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, so we'll use the industry standard 316 grade stainless on everything.
Right.
But we also have higher nickel content alloys.
Okay.
Like ALX 6N or SMO Inconel.
Right.
Which will last much
resistant.
longer, for the elements.
It's interesting stuff. I was thinking about the pipe bends, and I was like, then I saw about the engine rooms. Somebody, nobody wants to, no builder and no owner wants the engine room, right? It's like they want to make them as small as possible, and then they're confining you in where are you going to put the exhaust?
Of course, yeah.
And then with these new requirements with Tier 4, with the after treatment and things,
it's such a problem.
You're running out of real estate.
Yep.
So it's a tough one there, and the architects, they want to design these beautiful, gorgeous boats, but they make these engine rooms so tiny.
Of course,
It's like, how do you function?
If you're building a high-rise, right, you want to build a condo. You don't want each room to be huge because you're only going to fit 10 tenants in there.
Yeah.
If you can make them small, you fit 100 tenants.
Right.
You're selling this boat, you want more room for this, more room for
more
that.
cabins, more living space.
Yeah, that's what's
machinery space is not what that's not what the fun is.
Yeah. And then so that'll go right into what we were talking about earlier with the DPF and the SCR.
Okay.
I can get into that because that's a big problem is the room of what you're talking about.
No, tell me about it then.
Okay, so we've all been on the highway. We've all seen diesel trucks, 18-wheeler trucks, whatever. When they hit on the gas, you see that black plume of smoke that goes up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Especially they got a bad injector.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a diesel engine, and when an insufficient fuel combustion is going to have that particulate matter, right?
Sure.
PM, or we call it soot. Boats no different, right? These mega yachts, they have big diesel generators.
Right. Especially older engines and things.
Propulsion engines, and when they step on it, that soot is there.
Yeah, you get a little air lag.
So you can see it go out of the boat on the top, like cruise ships you see on the dry stack, or for the pleasure crafts, it'll go underwater.
Right.
And so that's no good. That stuff's been getting into the atmosphere and the water, and it's no good. So the IMO has been cracking down on that.
Okay.
Slowly but surely.
Sure.
And all these new regulations are kicking in now where they're going to make it so that if your vessel's over a certain tonnage or length, it has to have these DPF or SCR systems in it.
Okay.
So the main one on the Tier 3, which is already kicked in, is you have to reduce the NOx emissions. So the nitric,
Oxide.
the NOx emissions have to be a lot lower. And the way you do that is you can douse the gas,
Cool it
with urea.
Okay.
Okay. So the IMO Tier 3 regulations are going to say if you're a new build and you're this big, you have to have these systems in there. Now this is a problem because those systems are roughly the size of the engine. So there's no room to put them.
Oh my gosh.
So this has been a big problem, and they came out and said, hey, this is the deadline. And they got to push it back. They got to push it back. They got to push it back because you're forcing
solution.
Yeah, you got to give the engine companies time to come up with a compact solution.
Yeah.
So it's happening. You'll see a lot more of it now, but it is a challenge, especially, for example, for some of these sport fish boats where there's not ample engine room. And, sport fish boats now aren't what they used to be 30 years ago. You have a 90-foot sport fish boat. Well,
high performance.
You need to have this system in there. And if you've ever been in the engine room of a sport fishing boat, it's not that much room. So it's a problem. And boat builders are pushing back saying, hey, man, like Viking Yachts that makes this beautiful 90-footer, they're going to have to discontinue the line. How are they going to fit it in? So keep pushing back on the deadlines and, giving the engine companies time to figure it out and how to make a more compact unit or where to put it, If it's a new build.
So you close to finding a solution or you have a solution?
We have some solutions. It's just,
you need space.
Difficulty with space, difficulty with stuff like that. On new builds, it's a little different because you can spec it out.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, for sure. On a new build, you can spec it out. You can deal with the naval architects to make sure there's room for it. But if you're a boat that's already out there, and now the IMO is going to crack down on you and say, hey, you can't go over here.
You're not grandfathered in.
You can get grandfathered in. Some of them may not. It's going to get to the point where you can't.
Port by port.
Yeah, you can't go to this port if you're not. You can't go over here if you're not. So it is difficult.
I guess so. Wow.
It is.
Boy, if it ain't complex enough. Huh?
I know. What are you going to do? But, in the end, will be better because the technology will catch up. They'll make a more compact unit.
So this is a big thing in your business.
This is a big thing.
It's the big deal.
Yep. We've seen a lot of requests. We've done a lot of systems on boats, and this ain't nothing off the shelf like you want to buy a new watch or a new T-shirt.
Are the engine manufacturers? Are you working with the engine manufacturers? Are they developing their own systems? You competing systems?
Yeah. What
I mean, are they coming up with engines that are producing less emissions?
Right.
To start with, does that help?
That would be the end all. You're going to buy these engines; they're already going to be Tier 3 or Tier 4
when you buy
approved, right? And so what we're doing now is
so you're retrofitting the older boats,
right? And we got to come in. So we have two kind of products when it comes to DPF and SCR. We have active systems and we have passive systems.
Okay.
Let me start first with the DPF, right? A diesel particulate filter.
Okay.
Similar to those 18-wheeler trucks, you see them on the side, their exhaust pipe goes up and they have like a little canister.
Yes.
So that's just a filter.
Okay.
And so that filter, a diesel particulate filter, all the gas is going to go through that filter.
Okay.
And it's going to catch all that soot or that particulate matter. Now, as it starts accumulating that soot, that filter gets clogged.
Yeah,
So we're going to need to regenerate that filter from time to time. On a passive system, that filter is coated with a special precious metal and like chemical stuff to take your exhaust temperature and kick it up, make it a little higher. Because all that soot that's accumulated on the filter, it can disintegrate at a certain temperature.
Oh, I didn't know that. So it burns it off.
Right. So you're going to want a closed loop system or an active system, we call, where it's constantly being regenerated.
Understand.
With that, you just have to size it correctly. Hey, what's the size of the engine? What's the CFMs? What's your exhaust gas temperature? And if your consistent temperature isn't high enough to regenerate, well, now we need to install a heater somewhere in there.
Wow.
So it can get tricky.
Yeah.
It's hard, but once it's all spec'd out properly.
It seems like counterintuitive, like you'd want to put heat into your exhaust system.
Right. If you think about a generator, right? We've done a lot of these DPF systems on generators. Generators, all these boats have generators, right? They got to keep the lights on.
So I guess the focus would be more on the generators, right?
For the DPFs.
Can you get away with like going into a port with a main propulsion that doesn't have Tier 4, and then if you're running your generators,
the generators aren't. You can put a filter system on your generators, it'll be good. What this IMO latest Tier 3 and the Tier 4 is saying, this is on your propulsion.
Oh wow!
So you're going to have these big SCR systems, selective catalytic reduction.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that douses the gas with urea.
Sure.
So you need a big system.
Plus, you got to carry the product.
You need a big tank that carries urea.
Mm-hmm.
And urea is not available every port you go to. You can't just plug in and fill up your urea tank.
Right.
It's another problem.
Is that a liquid or is it like a...
It's a gas.
It's
got a foul odor, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's going to be tricky. But again,
that material handling, that just sounds like a nightmare in itself.
It is. And so that's why you've been seeing it push back and push back and push back.
Wow.
But yeah, you're going to put it in there and your exhaust emissions are going to be lower. The NOx in the gas can be a lot lower, a lot cleaner. So
okay,
in the long run, everybody's better off to have these. We just need, you will remember maybe the first cell phone you ever had, right?
Yeah.
Was it a big block and it was
exactly.
like never worked? And now we got these iPhones that are just...
But the physics is still the physics.
The physics is still the physics. We need the technology to catch up.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. That's a challenge.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you guys you guys are dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for us. It's a good challenge.
Yeah.
It's a good product. It's a new way to bring in more revenue, add to the production.
I mean, you know, for marine propulsion, I don't think diesels are going away anytime soon. They just don't have the horsepower.
Right.
We're not going to get power out of anything else.
Right. And so the engine companies, they'll eventually figure out a more compact unit or a combination unit with a SCR system and a DPF in it, which is something we have.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just finding the right system, putting it on your boat, and make sure everything works great.
So they're just, I don't want to complicate things here. So
by all means, go ahead.
But I'm thinking like, I'm an engineer, so I read a lot about stuff like this, especially marine propulsion. It's what I do for a hobby.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at like they're coming up with LNG fuel engines, and they got hydrogen fuel engines, and I'm just wondering, how does that affect the exhaust system?
Well, for us, we don't do products on outboard engines, right? We're the big diesel inboard engines.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our bread and butter. If they ever figure out how to go to electric and all this, I guess it wouldn't be so good for us.
Well,
but you know,
I don't think electric, but LNG gas, like propane and like similar to propane. I'm wondering, like we worked on a ship like that. I'm wondering, it's supposed to be cleaner burning, but I don't really know much about it. So it sounds like something we both gotta.
Yeah,
but I mean, you got plenty to keep you busy with the diesels.
That's the good thing. The boats that are already out there, they're not going anywhere. Yeah. So we'll be all right.
All right. So let's see here. We've covered a lot of ground.
I know. Once we get talking, man, time just flies by.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground here. So, here's something we kind of touched on earlier. Why do engineers and captains frequently blame exhaust problems when it could be another issue? And oh my gosh, we could go on and on.
I mean,
we could probably talk all day about this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to put yourself in their shoes, right? They're just trying to find a solution. And listen, we do marine exhaust every day, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of experts in it.
Sure, you are experts.
This guy may not be. So sometimes educate the customer, let them know. But at the same time, we're in customer service, so we need this guy to be happy. If he thinks it's the exhaust, we need to make sure it's not the exhaust, right?
Right.
And if it is, we need a solution for him. But if it isn't, so where AME comes in,
hey, we're happy to help. We're happy to help.
Hey, let's get a little diagnosis. See what's going on.
We love working with you guys.
It's been great because
we have a good relationship.
Yeah, it just goes hand in hand. No, very thankful.
You guys are top notch.
Thank you.
So let's see where we going else here. Excuse me. So I think we already talked about this. How does exhaust affect vibration? I mean,
yeah, man, you're gonna have
a lot of gas.
Yeah, a lot of CFMs moving through there. You got to support these things right. You know, it's an art, right? So if we in a simple exhaust system, we're gonna want to have it mounted correctly. You know, you got to have all kind of vibration dampeners. You got to isolate the movement. We have computer programs that could run simulations to tell you where you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, for every set thing that we do, you
do computer simulations.
Yeah.
I caught on to that one.
Yeah, you have to.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I
didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah, when we deal with the boat builders, we're going to spec out an exhaust system for one of their new lines. It's months, years of back and forth, and it's a lot. It's
funny. I went on a sea trial the other day. I was thinking in my mind, like, I don't think people have a clue how much air is moving through these exhaust systems, how much gas. Like the gas that's moving through these is unbelievable. And I went on a sea trial the other day. Actually, I don't go out on sea trials very much anymore because we have a full team of engineers and techs that are like top. You know, I have a great team, but every once in a while we're like so busy. I even got to go on a sea trial. So I went on a sea trial on this yacht, and we were in pretty rough weather. It was a couple weeks ago. We were pretty rough weather, and you know we were out there and we were going into the head seas, and the exhaust I could tell was getting submerged. Like you know the exhaust was getting deeper in the water, and it was picking up that vibration from going in deeper, and the cowling wasn't really. I guess it wasn't working as well.
Well, that's got to be designed correctly. It's an art, man.
Yeah. So this thing wasn't like the gas wasn't getting free of the boat. Like I could tell, and the owner's like, "Oh, I never had this vibration before," and he was freaking out, and I'm like, please take it easy.
That's why I'm here. We're gonna figure this out.
Go around, turn around. Let's go the other way with a following sea, and then. We're in a following sea, and it was all good. Like it was just like a different boat. And the guy was like, "Oh wow, it's running so smooth." And he had a glass of water on the back table, and he's like, "It doesn't even vibrate." And I'm like, "I told you." Like, but you know these little things with the exhaust, man. It's like,
especially when that boat's just going up and down, right? So is the engine, so is the exhaust.
There's a lot of dynamics going on here, man. And the exhaust systems,
it's critical.
People don't think about it. That's
a bad exhaust system could put your boat underwater.
Yeah.
A bad exhaust system can allow water to go up through that exhaust and back into your engine. And now you wreck your turbos, and God forbid you wreck an engine. This is serious stuff.
That can get ugly, man. Exhaust systems are, very critical component.
Very critical.
Very critical.
And not a lot of people have the real know-how on how to properly design an exhaust system. Listen, there's pipe fitters everywhere. You can go anywhere and just get but if you don't have the right...
You get water into that system, and man, I know boats. I know of boats that have sunk because of that.
For sure.
Or become disabled.
Yep. And then it gets expensive.
And then you're in... It never happens in good weather, does it?
No.
It's always bad weather.
Yeah, that certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, that's not fun. The sea is relentless. Well, Justin, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I've really enjoyed this
Me too.
This time and learning about your business. And and I'm glad guys like you exist and that we can work together.
Well, thank you. The pleasure has been mine. It flew by. Again, honored to be on the very first one. I can't wait to see the next ones.
This is exciting. I was wondering how I would do. I'm not. I don't know if I'm much of a TV personality. You know, I'm kind of a nerdy engineer sometimes, but at least that's what my wife tells me.
That's okay.
But I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening in. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into this week's tips and tricks for equipment optimization. Want to learn more? Head over to AME's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube included in the show notes, along with details from this episode. That's all for now, folks. See you next time.